I stare at the pile of my belongings haphazardly strewn in the hallway, my heart sinking with each passing second. The door to my loft, my sanctuary, remains firmly shut. The locks changed without my knowledge or consent. Confusion and disbelief wage a war inside me as I try to comprehend the scene before me. Surprise! Marcy's voice cuts through the haze, her tone dripping with false cheer. She emerges from behind the door, a smug grin plastered on her face. I'm pregnant, and we need a bigger place. Your loft is perfect. Her words hit me like a sucker punch, knocking the wind out of my lungs. What? You can't just take over my home, Marcy. This is my place, my life. Oh, come on, Tessa. You're never here anyway, always jetting off to some work thing. It's time to grow up and think about family. She rests her hand on her still flat stomach, her eyes glinting with a challenge. Anger bubbles up inside me, mixing with the sting of betrayal. Family? You mean the one that changes my locks and throws my stuff out without even a conversation? Marcy rolls her eyes, dismissing my outrage with a flippant wave of her hand. Don't be so dramatic. You can crash with Mom and Dad for a while. They'll be thrilled to have you back home. And what about my job, my responsibilities? I can't just upend my life because you decided to get knocked up. The words come out harsher than I intend, but the hurt fuels my indignation. Responsibilities? Marcy scoffs, her lips curling into a sneer. You mean like the way you've been playing the martyr, acting like you're the only one holding this family together? Well, guess what? It's my turn now. I need this more than you do. Her callousness cuts deep, the weight of her entitlement pressing down on my chest. You can't just take what's mine, Marcy. This is my home, my life. You have no right. No right. She laughs, the sound grating against my ears. I have every right. I'm the one starting a family, while you're just playing house in your fancy loft. It's time for you to step aside and let me have my chance. Tears prick at the corners of my eyes, but I refuse to let them fall. I won't give her the satisfaction of seeing me crumble. This isn't over, Marcy. You can't just steamroll over my life like this. Watch me. Her voice is cold, her eyes glinting with a triumphant gleam. Face it, Tessa, you've always been the responsible one, the one who cleans up everyone's messes. Well, now it's time for you to clean up your own. With those cutting words, she turns on her heel and slams the door in my face, leaving me standing amidst the wreckage of my life. The click of the lock echoes in the hallway, a brutal finality to her actions. I sink to the floor, my back pressed against the wall, as the weight of her betrayal crashes over me. How could she do this? How could my own sister, my flesh and blood, turn against me like this? As I sit there, surrounded by the scattered remnants of my life, a fierce determination takes root inside me. I won't let her win. I won't let her destroy everything I've worked so hard to build. I'll find a way to fight back, to reclaim what's rightfully mine. Marcy may think she's won, but she has no idea the storm that's coming her way. Growing up, I always felt like I was living in Marcy's shadow. She was the charming one, the free spirit who could light up a room with her smile. I, on the other hand, was the responsible one, the diligent daughter who worked hard to make something of myself. Our parents, Janet and Harold, always seemed to favor Marcy. They indulged her every whim, bailing her out of trouble time and time again. I remember the countless nights I stayed up late, studying for exams or working on projects, while Marcy was out partying with her friends. When I landed my first job as a marketing consultant, I thought things would change. I hoped that my parents would finally see me as an equal, someone to be proud of. But even then, Marcy managed to steal the spotlight. Tessa, honey, we're so proud of you, Mom said during one of our weekly phone calls. But have you heard about Marcy's latest adventure? She's going to backpack through Europe for a few months. Isn't that exciting? I gritted my teeth, trying to keep the bitterness out of my voice. That's great, Mom, but what about my promotion at work? I thought you'd be happy for me. Of course we are, dear. It's just that Marcy's trip sounds so thrilling. You should try to be more spontaneous like her. Those words cut deep, reinforcing the notion that no matter what I achieved, Marcy would always be the favored child. As the years went by, I found myself financially supporting my parents, believing that the money was going towards their retirement. I sent them monthly checks, sacrificing my own savings to ensure they were comfortable. Little did I know that a significant portion of that money was being funneled straight into Marcy's pockets. She would call up our parents, spinning tales of financial woe and begging for help. And they, ever the doting parents, would readily dip into the funds I provided to bail her out. It wasn't until I started noticing discrepancies in my own finances that I began to suspect something was amiss. I pored over bank statements and credit card bills, my heart sinking with each transaction I couldn't account for. When I confronted my parents about it, they were evasive at first. "Tessa, you know we would never misuse your money," Dad said, his voice strained. "We've just had some unexpected expenses, that's all." But I wouldn't let it go. I pushed and prodded until the truth finally came out. They had been using my money to fund Marcy's lavish lifestyle, from designer clothes to exotic vacations. The betrayal cut me to the core. I had trusted them, believed that they had my best interests at heart, but all along, they had been enabling Marcy's reckless behavior at my expense. "How could you do this to me?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and hurt. "I worked so hard to support you, to make sure you were taken care of, and this is how you repay me?" Mom had the decency to look ashamed, but Dad remained defensive. "Marcy needed our help, Tessa. She's family, and we couldn't turn our backs on her." "But what about me?" I shot back, the tears threatening to spill over. "Am I not family too? Or am I just a convenient ATM for you to use whenever Marcy gets herself into trouble?" The silence that followed was deafening. In that moment, I realized that I had always been an afterthought in their eyes. Marcy was the golden child, the one they would move heaven and earth for. I was just the reliable one, the one they took for granted. As I walked out of their house that day, my heart shattered into a million pieces. I made a vow to myself. I would no longer be a pawn in their games. I would cut the financial ties that bound me to their manipulation and claim my independence, no matter the cost. With my belongings hastily packed into boxes and suitcases, I find myself standing on my best friend Emily's doorstep, feeling like a refugee from my own life. She opens the door, her eyes widening as she takes in my disheveled appearance. "Tessa, what happened?" she asks, ushering me inside. I collapse onto her couch, the weight of the past few hours crashing down on me. Through choked sobs, I pour out the story of Marcy's betrayal and my parents' complicity in her schemes. Emily listens intently, her brow furrowed with concern. "I can't believe they would do this to you," she says, shaking her head. "After everything you've done for them." "I feel like such a fool," I confess, wiping away the tears that refused to stop falling. "I trusted them, Em. I thought I was doing the right thing by supporting them." She sits down beside me, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. "You can't blame yourself, Tess. They took advantage of your kindness." As I lean into her comforting embrace, my mind races with the implications of my family's actions. I know I can't continue down this path, enabling their behavior at the cost of my own well-being. Over the next few days, as I settle into Emily's spare room, I begin to formulate a plan. I dive into my financial records, piecing together the extent of my parents' deceit. The more I uncover, the more my resolve hardens. I discover that they've been siphoning off money from the account I set up for their retirement, funneling it into Marcy's frivolous pursuits. Designer clothes, expensive trips, even a down payment on a luxury car, all funded by the money I had worked so hard to provide. The betrayal cuts deeper with each revelation, fueling the anger that simmers beneath my skin. I know I can't let this continue. I have to take a stand, to cut the financial ties that have bound me to their manipulation for far too long. I meet with a financial advisor, seeking guidance on how to disentangle myself from the mess my family has created. He helps me set up new accounts, separate from the ones my parents have been leeching off of. "You're making the right decision," he assures me, his voice filled with understanding. "It's not easy, but sometimes we have to put ourselves first." As I sign the paperwork, a sense of empowerment washes over me. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm taking control, asserting my independence from the toxic dynamics that have held me back for so long. But even as I take these steps towards freedom, I know that the hardest part is yet to come. I have to confront my parents, to make them understand the consequences of their actions. I steel myself for the inevitable showdown, rehearsing the words I'll say over and over in my mind. I won't let them manipulate me anymore, won't let them twist the truth to suit their own selfish needs. As I walk into their house, my heart pounds in my chest, but I refuse to let my resolve waver. They look up at me, their faces etched with a mixture of surprise and apprehension. "Tessa, what's going on?" Mom asks, her voice trembling slightly. I take a deep breath, steadying myself for the confrontation that's about to unfold. "We need to talk," I say, my voice firm and unwavering. "About the money, about Marcy, about everything." Their eyes widen, guilt flashing across their features. They know that the truth is about to come out, that the carefully constructed web of lies they've spun is about to unravel. And as I stand there, ready to face the storm, I know that this is just the beginning. The road ahead may be rocky, but I'm determined to forge my own path, to break free from the chains of my family's manipulation and claim the life I deserve. The family gathering is in full swing when I arrive, the sound of laughter and chatter filling the air. I take a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation that's about to unfold. With a stack of credit card statements clutched in my hand, I make my way through the crowd, my eyes scanning the room for Marcy. I find her holding court in the kitchen, surrounded by a group of admiring relatives. She's regaling them with tales of her latest shopping spree, bragging about the designer clothes and expensive jewelry she's acquired. "Marcy, we need to talk," I say, my voice cutting through the frivolity like a knife. She turns to face me, her eyes narrowing as she takes in the serious expression on my face. "Can't it wait, Tessa? I'm in the middle of a story." "No, it can't." I hold up the credit card statements, my hand trembling slightly. "We need to talk about this." Marcy's eyes widen as she realizes what I'm holding, a flicker of panic crossing her features. She quickly composes herself, plastering a fake smile on her face. "I don't know what you're talking about, sis. Those must be your statements." I shake my head, anger bubbling up inside me. "Don't lie to me, Marcy. I know you've been using my credit to finance your little shopping adventures." The room falls silent, the tension palpable. Our relatives exchange uncomfortable glances, sensing the storm that's about to break. "I have no idea what you're talking about," Marcy insists, her voice dripping with false innocence. "You must be mistaken." I can't contain my fury any longer. "Mistaken? You've been racking up thousands of dollars in charges on my credit cards, Marcy. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry, lavish vacations, all on my dime." Marcy's facade cracks, her true colors shining through. "Oh, come on, Tessa. It's not like you can't afford it. You're the big shot with the fancy job, remember?" Her words are like a slap in the face, the entitlement and lack of remorse behind them stunning me into silence for a moment. But I quickly recover, my resolve hardening. "That's not the point, Marcy. You had no right to use my credit without my permission. It's fraud, plain and simple." She scoffs, rolling her eyes. "Fraud? Don't be so dramatic, sis. It's just a little shopping. No big deal." I can feel the eyes of our relatives on us, the weight of their judgment heavy in the air, but I refuse to back down, to let Marcy's manipulations go unchallenged any longer. "It is a big deal, Marcy. You've been taking advantage of me for years, using me as your personal piggy bank. Well, guess what? I'm done. I'm done enabling your reckless behavior, done cleaning up your messes." Marcy's eyes flash with anger, her true nature finally exposed for all to see. "You're just jealous, Tessa. Jealous that I know how to live life to the fullest while you're stuck in your boring little world." I shake my head, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "You call this living life to the fullest? Stealing from your own sister, manipulating our parents, leaving a trail of destruction in your wake? That's not living, Marcy. That's being a selfish, entitled brat." The room erupts into chaos, our relatives taking sides and voices rising in a cacophony of accusations and defenses. But I tune them out, my focus solely on Marcy. "I'm cutting you off, Marcy. No more access to my credit, no more bailouts from our parents. It's time for you to face the consequences of your actions." With those words, I turn on my heel and walk out of the room, ignoring the shouts and pleas behind me. I know that this is just the beginning, that Marcy won't go down without a fight, but I'm ready for whatever she throws my way. I'm done being her doormat, done sacrificing my own happiness for her selfish whims. It's time for me to take back control of my life, no matter the cost. In the days following the confrontation at the family gathering, I throw myself into the task of gathering evidence against Marcy. I pore over bank statements, credit card bills, and email trails, piecing together the extent of her deceit. The more I uncover, the more my anger grows. Marcy hasn't just been using my credit for her shopping sprees. She's been actively trying to turn our family against me, spinning tales of my supposed selfishness and lack of family loyalty. I find emails she sent to our parents, painting me as the villain in our story. Tessa's always been jealous of me, she writes. She can't stand to see me happy, so she's trying to ruin my life. The lies and manipulation are so blatant, so calculated, that I can hardly believe what I'm reading. How could my own sister be so cruel, so vindictive? But I refuse to let her win. I gather all the evidence I can find, compiling it into a neat little package that I know will be her undoing. As I work, I can't help but think back on all the times Marcy has taken advantage of me over the years. The borrowed money that was never repaid, the favors that were never returned, the snide comments and backhanded compliments that chipped away at my self-esteem. I realize now that I've been too passive, too willing to let her walk all over me in the name of family harmony. But no more. It's time for me to stand up for myself, to demand the respect and fairness that I deserve. I meet with a lawyer, seeking guidance on how to proceed. He looks over the evidence I've gathered, nodding approvingly. "This is solid, Tessa," he says. "We can definitely build a case against your sister for fraud and identity theft." The words fraud and identity theft hit me like a punch to the gut. I never imagined that things would go this far, that my own sister would be facing legal consequences for her actions. But I know that I can't back down now. I have to see this through, no matter how painful it may be. I start to distance myself from my family, knowing that Marcy will stop at nothing to turn them against me. I change my phone number, block their emails, and refuse to engage in any further communication. It's a lonely existence, cut off from the people I once held dear. But I know that it's necessary, that I can't let myself be dragged back into the toxic cycle of enabling and codependency that has defined our relationship for so long. As I prepare for the inevitable legal battle ahead, I can't help but feel a sense of sadness mixed with the anger and betrayal. I never wanted things to come to this, never wanted to have to take such drastic measures against my own flesh and blood. But I know that I'm doing the right thing, not just for myself, but for Marcy as well. She needs to face the consequences of her actions, to learn that she can't go through life taking advantage of others without repercussions. I steel myself for the fight ahead, knowing that it won't be easy. Marcy will undoubtedly try to paint me as the villain, to twist the truth to suit her own selfish narrative. But I have the truth on my side, and I won't let her lies and manipulations win out in the end. I'll present my evidence, lay bare the extent of her deceit, and let the chips fall where they may. As I sit in my temporary refuge, surrounded by the boxes and suitcases that contain the remnants of my former life, I know that I'm on the cusp of something big, a chance to break free from the chains of my past, to forge a new path for myself free from the toxic influence of my family. It won't be easy, but I'm ready for whatever comes my way. I'm done being a victim, done letting others dictate the course of my life. From now on, I'm the one in control, and heaven help anyone who tries to stand in my way. The day of the mediation session arrives, and I find myself sitting across from Marcy and our parents in a sterile conference room. The tension in the air is palpable, the weight of the impending confrontation heavy on my shoulders. Marcy sits there, a smug smile on her face, as if she's already won. Our parents look uncomfortable, shifting in their seats and avoiding eye contact with me. The mediator, a stern-looking woman in her 50s, clears her throat and begins the proceedings. We're here today to address the allegations of fraud and identity theft brought forth by Tessa Johnson against her sister, Marcy Johnson. Marcy scoffs, rolling her eyes. This is ridiculous. Tessa's just being dramatic, as usual. I feel my anger rising, but I take a deep breath and focus on the task at hand. I nod to my lawyer, who begins presenting the evidence we've gathered. He lays out the credit card statements, the email trails, the bank records that show the extent of Marcy's deceit. With each piece of evidence, I see the color drain from Marcy's face, the realization that she's been caught red-handed slowly sinking in. Our parents look stunned, their eyes widening as the truth of Marcy's actions is revealed. They turn to her, disbelief and disappointment etched on their faces. "Marcy, how could you?" Mom asks, her voice trembling. "How could you do this to your own sister?" Marcy's facade cracks, her true nature spilling out in a torrent of anger and resentment. "Oh, spare me the lecture, Mom. You've always favored Tessa, always put her needs above mine. I was just taking what I deserved." Dad shakes his head, his voice heavy with sadness. "We never favored Tessa, Marcy. We love you both equally. But what you've done, it's unforgivable." Marcy laughs, a bitter, hollow sound. "Unforgivable? That's rich, coming from you two. You're the ones who enabled her, who let her play the martyr while I got scraps." I can't hold back any longer. I lean forward, my voice shaking with anger. "Scraps, Marcy? I've been supporting you for years, bailing you out of every mess you've gotten yourself into. And this is how you repay me, by stealing from me, by trying to turn our family against me." Marcy's eyes narrow, her voice dripping with venom. "You've always been the golden child, Tessa, the perfect daughter, the one who could do no wrong. Well, guess what? I'm done living in your shadow." The mediator clears her throat, trying to regain control of the situation. "Miss Johnson, the evidence against you is quite clear. You're facing serious legal consequences for your actions." Marcy's face pales, the reality of her situation finally hitting her. She turns to our parents, desperation in her eyes. "Mom, Dad, you have to help me. You can't let her do this to me." But our parents shake their heads, their faces etched with disappointment and resignation. "We can't help you anymore, Marcy," Dad says. "You've gone too far this time." I feel a twist of satisfaction at Marcy's despair, but it's tempered by the sadness of seeing our family torn apart. I never wanted things to come to this, but I know that I had no choice. The mediator turns to me, her voice sympathetic. "Miss Johnson, I understand that this has been a difficult and painful process for you, but you've done the right thing by coming forward and seeking justice." I nod, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. It's not the outcome I hoped for, but it's a start. A chance to break free from the toxic cycle of enabling and codependency that has defined our family for so long. As we leave the conference room, I know that the road ahead won't be easy. Marcy will undoubtedly face legal consequences for her actions, and our family will have to grapple with the fallout of her betrayal. But I also know that I'm ready for whatever comes next. I've found my strength, my voice, and I won't let anyone silence me again. This is my story, my life, and I'm the one who gets to write the ending. In the weeks following the mediation session, I watch as Marcy's world begins to crumble around her. The legal consequences of her actions start to catch up with her, and she's forced to face the reality of the mess she's created. I hear through the grapevine that she's been fired from her job, her employer citing the pending fraud charges as grounds for termination. Her fancy apartment, the one she so gleefully took from me, is now in jeopardy as she struggles to make ends meet. Part of me feels a twisted sense of satisfaction at seeing her suffer, at watching the scales of justice finally tip in my favor. But another part of me, the part that still remembers the little girl who used to climb into my bed during thunderstorms, feels a pang of sadness at how far we've fallen. I try to push those feelings aside, focusing instead on the task of rebuilding my own life. I throw myself into my work, taking on new projects and responsibilities in an effort to distract myself from the pain of my family's betrayal. But even as I try to move forward, Marcy's presence still lingers like a shadow over my life. She starts calling me at all hours of the day and night, her voice slurred and desperate as she begs for my help. "Tessa, please," she sobs into the phone. "I need money. I'm going to lose everything." I feel a flicker of anger at her audacity, at the fact that she still thinks she can manipulate me into cleaning up her messes. "You should have thought of that before you stole from me, Marcy. I'm not your personal ATM anymore." She lashes out then, her voice filled with venom. "You're enjoying this, aren't you? Seeing me suffer, watching me lose everything. You've always been jealous of me, always wanted to see me fail." I shake my head, even though she can't see me. "I never wanted this, Marcy. I never wanted our family to be torn apart like this. But you made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences." She hangs up on me then, and I'm left feeling drained and empty. I know that I'm doing the right thing by cutting her off, by refusing to enable her any longer. but it doesn't make it any easier to watch my sister self-destruct. As the weeks turn into months, I start to hear rumors about Marcy's increasingly erratic behavior. She's been spotted drunk in public, getting into fights with strangers, and causing scenes at local bars. I try to distance myself from the gossip, focusing instead on my own healing. I start seeing a therapist, working through the years of trauma and codependency that have defined my relationship with my family. It's a slow and painful process, but gradually I start to feel a sense of hope and possibility that I haven't felt in years. I start to imagine a life beyond the confines of my family's dysfunction, a future where I'm free to be my own person, unencumbered by the weight of their expectations and demands. And then, one day, I receive a letter from Marcy. It's short and to the point, a simple apology for all the pain she's caused me over the years. "I know I can't undo what I've done," she writes, "but I'm getting help now, and I'm trying to be a better person. I hope that someday you can find it in your heart to forgive me." I read the letter over and over again, feeling a mix of emotions swirling inside me. Part of me wants to crumple it up and throw it away, to dismiss it as just another manipulation tactic. But another part of me, the part that still remembers the bond we once shared, feels a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there's a chance for us to heal, to find a way forward that doesn't involve the toxic cycles of the past. I know that it won't be easy, that there's no guarantee that Marcy will follow through on her promises. But for the first time in a long time, I allow myself to hope, to believe that change is possible. And as I sit there, holding that letter in my hands, I know that whatever happens next, I'll face it with the strength and resilience that I've fought so hard to earn. 2 years later, I find myself in a new city, thousands of miles away from the memories of my past. I've built a new life for myself here, one that's free from the toxic influence of my family and the constant drama that seemed to follow us wherever we went. My career has taken off in ways I never could have imagined, and I find myself thriving in my new role as a marketing executive. I've made new friends, formed new relationships, and discovered a sense of purpose and fulfillment that I never knew was possible. But even as I embrace this new chapter of my life, I can't help but think about the family I left behind. I wonder how they're doing, if they've managed to find their own paths to healing and redemption. I think about my parents, the ones who enabled Marcy's behavior for so long, and I feel a pang of sadness mixed with frustration. I know that they're not entirely to blame for what happened, that they were victims of Marcy's manipulation just as much as I was. But I also know that they played a role in perpetuating the cycle of dysfunction that nearly destroyed our family. They refused to see the truth about Marcy's behavior, choosing instead to turn a blind eye and make excuses for her actions. I've tried to maintain a relationship with them, sending the occasional email or text message to let them know that I'm doing okay. But there's a distance between us now, a gulf that feels impossible to bridge. I know that they're struggling to adjust to life without Marcy's constant demands and manipulations. I've heard through the grapevine that they've had to downsize their lifestyle, selling off assets and cutting back on expenses in order to stay afloat. Part of me feels a twisted sense of satisfaction at the thought of them finally facing the consequences of their actions. But another part of me, the part that still remembers the love and support they once provided, feels a deep sense of sadness at how far we've fallen. I try to push those feelings aside, focusing instead on the task of building a better future for myself. I've learned the hard way that I can't change the past, that I can't force my family to be something they're not. But what I can do is make sure that I never repeat their mistakes. I can break the cycle of codependency and dysfunction that nearly destroyed us all, and create a new legacy for myself that's based on honesty, integrity, and self-respect. And so I pour myself into my work, into my friendships, into the things that bring me joy and fulfillment. I volunteer at local charities, donate to causes that I believe in, and try to make a positive difference in the world around me. I know that I can't save everyone, that I can't fix all the broken parts of my family's past, but I can be a force for good in my own life and in the lives of those around me. And as for Marcy, the sister who nearly destroyed everything I held dear, I hear through the grapevine that she's started to turn her life around, that she's entered a rehab program, and is working to make amends for her past actions. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive her completely, if I'll ever be able to trust her again after everything that's happened. But I do know that I'm proud of her for taking that first step, for finally acknowledging the pain she's caused and working to be a better person. Maybe someday we'll find our way back to each other. Maybe we'll be able to rebuild the bond that was once so strong between us. But for now, I'm content to focus on my own journey, on the path that I've chosen for myself. And as I look out at the city skyline, at the endless possibilities that stretch out before me, I know that I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. I'm free, I'm happy, and I'm finally living life on my own terms.
The text message from Christine lit up my phone screen. Emergency family meeting. Tonight, 7 p.m. Don't you dare say no. I stared at those words, my stomach already knotting. Being the successful one in the family meant every emergency meeting inevitably led to the same thing. Someone needed money. Again. My name is Zara, and I've spent the last decade being my family's personal ATM. While they see a thriving businesswoman who has it easy, they don't see the 80-hour weeks or the sacrifices I've made to build my consulting firm from scratch. You're not seriously going, are you? Sierra asked, watching me gather my things from across our shared office space. That's the third emergency this month. What choice do I have? I sighed, slipping on my blazer. Last time I missed one, Dad didn't speak to me for 2 weeks. Maybe that wasn't such a bad thing, she muttered, but I pretended not to hear. I arrived at Christine's house at 7:05 p.m. Everyone was already there, scattered around her living room like vultures waiting to feast. Theo sprawled on the couch, probably hiding another betting slip in his pocket. Adeline sat cross-legged on the floor, perfectly manicured nails tapping away at her phone. Dad occupied his usual armchair, looking stern as ever. "Finally!" Christine exclaimed. "We've been waiting." "Some of us have to work," I replied, choosing to stand rather than sit. "What's the emergency?" "We're planning a family reunion," Adeline piped up, finally looking up from her phone. "Everyone's coming. Aunts, uncles, cousins, even Great-Aunt Martha." I waited for the other shoe to drop. "We need you to fund it," Christine said, as if announcing the weather. "The venue alone is $5,000, and then there's catering, decorations." "No." The word left my mouth before I could stop it. The room fell silent. 5 pairs of eyes stared at me in disbelief. "What do you mean, no?" Theo sat up straight. "It's for family." "I mean no," I repeated, stronger this time. "I'm done being the family bank." Christine's face reddened. "After everything we've done for you." "Everything you've done for me?" I laughed, but there was no humour in it. "Like what, Christine?" "Like borrowing 10 grand for your business venture that never happened? Or you, Theo, the gambling debt I covered last Christmas?" "That's different," Theo protested. "I was in trouble." "You're always in trouble," my voice rose. "All of you, always needing something, always taking, never giving back. I'm tired of it." "Zara," Dad's voice carried that familiar note of disapproval. "This is about family unity. Your mother would have wanted—" "Don't." I held up my hand. "Don't you dare use Mom to manipulate me. She would have wanted you all to stand on your own 2 feet. "You've changed," Adeline said quietly. "Success has made you selfish." That word, selfish, hit me like a slap. I'd heard it so many times over the years whenever I dared to say no, whenever I tried to set boundaries. "You want to talk about selfish?" I grabbed my purse. "Look in the mirror, all of you, I'm done." "If you walk out that door," Christine called after me, "don't expect us to be there when you need us." I paused at the doorway, turning back one last time. When have you ever been there when I needed you? The door slammed behind me with a satisfying bang. In my car, hands shaking on the steering wheel, I felt something shift inside me. Years of resentment crystallized into determination. My phone buzzed continuously, messages from all of them, ranging from guilt trips to outright threats. I switched it off. At home, I poured myself a glass of wine and called Sierra. "How bad was it?" she asked. I finally did it, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. I said no. About damn time, she paused. Are you okay? No, I admitted, but I will be. They need to learn they can't keep using me like this. They need to learn about consequences. What are you going to do? I took a long sip of wine, an idea forming in my mind. I'm going to teach them a lesson they'll never forget, something that will either make them or break them. Zara. Sierra's voice held a note of warning. Don't worry, I said, already opening my laptop. This isn't about revenge. It's about growth. They just don't know it yet. As I began typing, I felt lighter than I had in years. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for someone is to stop enabling them. And if my plan worked, my family would thank me for it someday, or hate me forever. Either way, I was done being their safety net. The fluorescent lights of the emergency room buzzed overhead as I tried to make sense of what had happened. 1 minute I was presenting to clients, the next I was doubled over, unable to breathe. Now here I was, hooked up to monitors, watching my blood pressure numbers dance across the screen. Ms. Whitney? A doctor in blue scrubs approached my bed. I'm Dr. Reynolds. Your test results show you've experienced a severe panic attack, complicated by exhaustion and dangerously high stress levels. I almost laughed. Stress? I can't be here for stress. I have meetings tomorrow, deadlines. You're not going anywhere, he interrupted firmly. Your body is sending you a clear message. Ignore it, and next time could be much worse. A nurse appeared with admission papers. We're keeping you for observation, at least 48 hours. My phone lit up again. Another message from Christine. I'd been ignoring them all week, but curiosity got the better of me. Hope you're proud of yourself. Dad's devastated. The reunion's cancelled. Thanks to you. The monitor beeped as my heart rate spiked. I'll take that, the nurse said, plucking the phone from my hands. Doctor's orders, no stress triggers. Later that evening, Sierra arrived with an overnight bag and my laptop. Don't even think about working, she warned, seeing my eyes light up at the sight of my computer. But I thought you might want to handle some personal matters. Like what? She sat on the edge of my bed, her expression serious. Like your will, Zara. This is a wake-up call. What if it had been something worse? I started to protest, but the words died in my throat. She was right. If something happened to me, my family would tear each other apart over my assets. I need a lawyer, I said finally. Already called Barrett, Sierra replied. He's on his way. Barrett arrived an hour later, leather briefcase in hand. As Emery's brother and a family friend, he knew exactly what I was dealing with. Interesting timing, he said, pulling up a chair. Emery told me about the reunion drama. Then you understand why this needs to be done carefully, I replied. I want to help them, Barrett, but not in the way they expect. He opened his briefcase. I'm listening. For the next 2 hours, we crafted something that was part will, part intervention. Each family member would receive a letter leading them to a specific charity or organization that mirrored their personal struggles. Christine needs to understand what real need looks like, I explained, watching Barrett take notes. Send her to the women's shelter downtown. Theo should work with gambling addiction support groups. Adeline. I paused. Youth self-esteem programs. She needs to see beyond appearances. And the inheritance? Barrett asked. They'll get it, but only after 6 months of documented volunteer work with their assigned organizations. No shortcuts, no buying their way out. Barrett whistled low. They're going to be furious. Good, I said, feeling a strange calm settle over me. Maybe fury will motivate them to change. What about your father? I closed my eyes briefly. The Veterans Center. He needs to remember what real sacrifice looks like. As Barrett drafted the document, Sierra squeezed my hand. Are you sure about this? For the first time in years, yes. I opened my eyes, looking at the hospital ceiling. They need this. I need this. There's one more thing, Barrett said, looking up from his paperwork. To make this legally binding, we need to inform them while you're still in the hospital. It adds weight to the situation. You want me to tell them now? He nodded. I'll call them in tomorrow. Let them think it's worse than it is. Sometimes people need a shock to wake them up. The thought of facing them made my chest tight, but the monitor's steady beeping reminded me why I was here in the first place. Do it, I said. Call them all in. It's time they understood what they've done to me. After they left, I lay in the darkness, listening to the quiet hum of hospital machinery. My phone sat silent in the drawer, but I could imagine the messages piling up, the missed calls, the family group chat exploding with drama. For the first time since Mom died, I felt like I was taking control back. Maybe it was the medication, maybe it was the exhaustion, but I smiled as I drifted off to sleep. Tomorrow everything would change. They'd either hate me for it or thank me later, but either way, I was done being their crutch. Sometimes the biggest act of love is forcing people to stand on their own. The thought followed me into my dreams, where for once I wasn't running to anyone's rescue. I was simply standing still, watching them learn to save themselves. They filed into my hospital room like mourners at a funeral, faces drawn with worry and barely concealed expectation. Christine clutched her designer handbag like a shield. Theo couldn't stop fidgeting. Adeline kept glancing at her reflection in the window. Dad took the chair closest to my bed, trying to look concerned rather than calculating. Barrett stood by the window, briefcase ready. Sierra positioned herself near the door, arms crossed, watching. "Oh, sweetie," Christine started, her voice dripping with manufactured sympathy. "Why didn't you tell us you were so ill?" "Because I'm not," I replied flatly. "I'm here because of stress, because of you, all of you." The room fell silent. "What's he doing here?" Theo asked, jerking his chin toward Barrett. "I've asked Barrett to help me revise my will," I said, watching their expressions shift. "Recent events have made me realize some changes are necessary." Christine straightened up immediately. "Of course you need to protect your assets. I completely understand. Let me finish," I cut her off. "Barrett, the letters, please." He opened his briefcase and distributed 4 sealed envelopes. My family stared at them like they might explode. "Open them," I instructed. The sound of tearing paper filled the room. I watched their faces transform as they read, confusion, shock, anger, disbelief. "This is a joke, right?" Adeline was the first to speak. "You want me to work at some youth centre? For 6 months? A gambling addiction centre?" Theo crumpled his letter. "Have you lost your mind?" Christine's face had gone pale. "A women's shelter? I don't— "You can and you will," I said firmly. "If you want any part of my estate, these are my terms. 6 months of documented volunteer work at your assigned organisations. No exceptions, no buying your way out." "This is ridiculous," Dad exploded, waving his letter. "The Veterans Centre? I served my country." "Exactly," I interrupted. "So, you should have no problem serving again, this time by helping others who've sacrificed everything." "And if we refuse," Christine demanded, "then you get nothing." I kept my voice steady. "My entire estate will go to these organisations instead." "You can't do this." Theo stood up, pacing. "It's not legal." "Actually," Barrett stepped forward, "it's completely legal. I've drawn up all the necessary documentation. Zara's conditions are clear and binding." "This is revenge," Adeline accused, tears smearing her perfect makeup. "For the reunion thing." "No," I said softly. "This is an intervention. Look at yourselves. Really look. Christine, when's the last time you earned your own money? Theo, how many times have I bailed you out? Adeline, do you even know who you are beneath all that superficial perfection? And me?" Dad's voice was dangerous and low. "What's my great sin?" "Enabling them," I replied, "teaching them that taking from others is easier than standing on their own feet." "You're our sister," Christine pleaded. "Our daughter. Family helps family." "I'm not helping by being your human ATM." I gestured at the hospital room. "Look where it's gotten me. This stops now." Sierra stepped forward. "I think Zara needs to rest. You all have your letters. The choice is yours." "Choice?" Theo laughed bitterly. This is blackmail. No, I corrected him. This is tough love. Something I should have done years ago. They left one by one, Dad last of all. He paused at the door, looking back at me with an expression I couldn't read. Your mother would be ashamed, he said quietly. No, Dad, I replied, feeling tears prick my eyes. Mum would have done this years ago. She was stronger than any of us. After they left, Sierra sat on the edge of my bed. Well, that went about as well as expected. Barrett gathered his papers. They'll come around. Or they won't. Either way, you've done the right thing. Have I? I whispered, suddenly uncertain. You should have seen their faces. I did, Sierra squeezed my hand, and beneath all that anger I saw something else. Fear, because for the first time, they're facing consequences. My phone buzzed. A message from Emery. Barrett told me what you did. About time someone shook them up. I'm here if you need me. I smiled slightly, remembering why Emery was the only family member who didn't get a letter. He'd built his business from scratch, never asking for handouts. Get some rest, Sierra ordered. The hard part's over. But as I lay there watching the sun set through my hospital window, I knew she was wrong. The hard part was just beginning. For all of us. 2 weeks after my hospital release, Sierra drove me to the women's shelter where Christine was supposed to be volunteering. We sat in the car watching the entrance. She won't show, I said, checking my watch. $10 says you're wrong, Sierra replied, pointing at a familiar figure hurrying up the street. Christine looked different. No designer bag, no expensive jewellery. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore jeans and a plain sweater. She hesitated at the entrance, then squared her shoulders and went inside. Well, I'll be damned, I muttered. 1 down, 3 to go, Sierra said, starting the car. Where to next? The gambling addiction centre was across town. We found Theo outside smoking a cigarette, deep in conversation with an older man. As we watched, the man broke down crying. Theo awkwardly patted his shoulder, then pulled out his phone and appeared to be showing him something. That's Marcus, a voice said behind us. We turned to see the centre's director. Your brother's been helping him set up a budgeting app. Seems Theo has quite a knack for connecting with our members. Takes one to know one, I suppose. My throat tightened. He's actually showing up regularly? 3 times a week, like clockwork. Even started attending the sessions himself. The youth centre was next. Through the window, we spotted Adeline sitting in a circle with teenage girls. Her face was bare of makeup, and she was gesturing animatedly as she spoke. One of the girls wiped away tears while nodding. What's she saying? I wondered aloud. A staff member passing by overheard me, sharing her story about social media addiction and body image issues. The girls really relate to her. She's organising a real beauty workshop for next week. Adeline, my sister Adeline, the woman nodded. She's been a revelation. Says she's finally finding purpose beyond her Instagram followers. Last stop was the Veterans Centre. My stomach churned as we pulled into the parking lot. Dad's car was there, but so were several others I recognised from family gatherings. Inside, we found Dad in the recreation room, playing chess with an elderly veteran. Uncle Rob was helping with physical therapy, and Aunt Jane was organising care packages. Your father's been talking up the centre to everyone he knows, the coordinator told me. He's recruited half his golf club as volunteers. Says it reminds him of the camaraderie he felt in service. I don't understand, I said to Sierra as we left. They're actually doing it. All of them. Maybe they needed a push, she suggested. Or maybe they needed purpose more than they needed money. That evening, my phone lit up with a message from Christine. Met a woman today. 3 kids escaping abuse. Reminded me of Mom before she met Dad. Never realised how lucky we were. Then Theo. Helped a guy today. He lost everything to betting, just like I almost did. Feels good to be on the other side. Adeline sent a selfie, her face natural, surrounded by smiling teenage girls. They think I'm inspiring them, but it's the other way around. Dad's message was last and shortest. Your mother would be proud of all of us. I sat on my couch reading and rereading the messages. Sierra brought me a glass of wine. Having second thoughts about your revenge plan? She asked. It wasn't about revenge, I protested. Not really. No, she raised an eyebrow. Okay, maybe a little, I admitted. But I never expected this. My phone buzzed again. A message from Barrett. Emery and I dropped by the Veterans Centre today. Your dad introduced us to everyone as my daughter's family. First time he's acknowledged me as anything but his lawyer. You know what the funny thing is? I said to Sierra. I thought I was teaching them a lesson about money, about not depending on me, but they're learning something else entirely. They're learning who they are without the safety net, Sierra nodded, without the roles they've been playing their whole lives. The entitled sister, the gambling brother, the vain sister, the demanding father. I took a sip of wine. Maybe those were just masks they got stuck behind. And what about you? Sierra asked. What mask are you taking off? I thought about it. The savior, the ATM, the one who always has to fix everything. And how does it feel? I smiled, remembering Christine's message, Theo's determination, Adeline's bare face, Dad's simple words. It feels like freedom, I said. For all of us. Sierra raised her glass. To freedom, then. And to karma, which turns out to be a better teacher than any of us could have planned. We clinked glasses, and I felt the last knot of tension in my chest finally begin to unwind. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's giving people the chance to surprise themselves. The family meeting wasn't my idea. Christine called it. 1 month into their volunteer work. This time we met at my house. Neutral territory. They arrived together and I barely recognized them. Christine's designer clothes had been replaced with practical wear. Theo's nervous energy had calmed, and Adeline's face showed actual laugh lines instead of Botox. We need to talk, Christine said as they settled into my living room, about what you did to us. I braced myself. Okay, talk. You manipulated us, Theo started. Used your money to force us into this. You're right, I admitted. I did. You had no right, Adeline added, but her voice lacked its usual bite. Maybe not, I agreed. But tell me honestly, would you have done any of this otherwise? Silence filled the room. I met a woman today, Christine said suddenly. She reminded me of me, constantly asking her sister for money, making excuses, playing victim. I watched her and felt ashamed. At least you didn't gamble away your kid's college fund, Theo muttered. Had to talk down a guy today who did exactly that. Kept thinking about all the times I promised to stop betting, all the times you bailed me out. My girls, Adeline said softly. She'd started calling the teenagers at the centre her girls. They showed me their Instagram accounts today, all the filters, the editing. I saw myself in every single one of them. That desperate need to be perfect. Dad cleared his throat. The men at the centre. Some of them lost everything. Family, homes, dignity. And here I was, treating my own daughter like a bank. I didn't do this to punish you, I said, feeling tears prick my eyes. I did it because we were all drowning. Me trying to save everyone. You expecting to be saved. You could have just talked to us, Christine protested. Would you have listened? I asked. Or would you have called me selfish again, manipulated me with guilt until I gave in, like you always did? More silence. I hate what you did, Theo said finally, but I needed it. We all did. The funny thing is, Adeline added, I don't even care about the inheritance anymore. These kids, they need me. Really need me. Not my money, not my connections, just me. That's what Mum always tried to teach us, Dad said quietly. Service to others. Remember how she volunteered everywhere? We used to think she was wasting her time. She was the strong one, I said. I just copied her playbook. Christine stood up suddenly. I'm angry at you, Zara. For the manipulation, for the ultimatum. But I'm also grateful. And I don't know how to feel about that. Welcome to personal growth, I replied. It's messy. The shelter needs help renovating their children's playroom, Christine said after a moment. I was thinking, maybe we could all pitch in. As a family. My girls could paint a mural, Adeline offered. They're amazing artists. Some of the guys from the centre are good with construction, Dad added. I could ask them to supervise. I can handle the budget, Theo said. Make sure we get the most value for our money. I sat back, watching them plan, their excitement building. Sierra's words echoed in my mind. Maybe they needed purpose more than they needed money. One condition, I said, interrupting their planning. Whatever we do it together. No more divisions, no more keeping score. Does this mean you're speaking to us again? Adeline asked hopefully. I never stopped speaking to you, I corrected. I just stopped enabling you. There's a difference. Dad stood up, walking to where I sat. His eyes were wet. I failed you as a father. Failed all of you, really. Got so caught up in what we were entitled to, I forgot what we were capable of. We all failed each other, I said, standing to hug him. But we're fixing it now. One by one, they joined the hug until we were all tangled together, laughing and crying at the same time. So, Christine said as we finally broke apart, about that playroom renovation. I'll call Barrett, I offered. He can help with any permits we need. And Emery, Adeline added. He's good at organising projects. As they left that evening, making plans and assigning tasks, I felt something shift in the air. The old dynamics of resentment and dependency were being replaced by something new, something healthier. My phone buzzed with a message from Sierra. How did it go? I typed back. They're still mad, but they're also grateful. And maybe that's exactly where we need to be right now. Because sometimes the best families are the ones that break apart and rebuild themselves, stronger than before. The women's shelter playroom transformation was in full swing when I arrived that Saturday morning. Paint cans, drop cloths, and tools cluttered the space, but what caught my attention was my family, actually working together. Adeline stood on a ladder, directing her teenage artists as they sketched a forest scene across one wall. Their design incorporated inspiring words hidden among the trees: strength, hope, dream. Look who finally showed up, Christine called out, roller in hand. We started without you. Someone had to bring coffee, I said, holding up the carrier of drinks. Where's Theo? Outside with Dad and the veterans building the storage units, she replied. They're like a well-oiled machine out there. I headed to the courtyard, where Dad was showing two teenagers how to measure wood properly while Theo calculated materials with a contractor. No, see, if we adjust this design slightly, Theo was saying, we can save 20% on materials without compromising quality. The contractor nodded approvingly. You've got a good head for this, son. Dad spotted me and waved. Perfect timing. We need another set of hands. For the next few hours, I moved between groups, painting, building, and watching my family in their element. Christine organised donations of toys and books, handling everything with the same efficiency she once applied to shopping sprees. Maria's coming in today, she told me during a water break. The woman I mentioned? With 3 kids. The one who reminded you of Mum, she nodded. We found her a job. Administrative work at a law firm. She starts Monday. You did that? We did that, she corrected. The shelter staff and I. Turns out my networking skills are good for something besides finding the next designer sale. Inside, Adeline was sitting with her girls during their break, showing them something on her phone. That's me at your age, she said. All those filters, all that makeup. I thought it made me special. Now I look at it and don't even recognize myself. But you're so pretty without all that stuff, one girl said. Adeline's smile was genuine. Took me 30 years and a very stubborn sister to figure that out. By late afternoon, the playroom had transformed. Bright murals covered the walls, new storage units lined up neatly, and donated toys filled fresh-painted shelves. Dad and his veteran friends had even installed a reading nook with cushions. This is incredible, the shelter director said, wiping tears. The children, they've never had anything like this. We're not done yet, Theo announced. The guys from my support group, they're organising a fundraiser, gaming tournament, all proceeds to the shelter. And my girls want to start a weekly art therapy session, Adeline added. The veterans offered to do security upgrades, Dad said. Free of charge. I stood back, watching them plan and organise, no one asking me for money or solutions. Sierra appeared beside me, camera in hand. She'd been documenting the day. "Still think this was about revenge?" she asked quietly. Before I could answer, a commotion at the door drew our attention. Maria, the woman Christine had mentioned, stood there with her children, their eyes wide at the transformed space. "Welcome home," Christine said warmly, leading them in. The youngest child, a girl about 6, ran straight to the reading nook. "Mommy, look, books!" Maria burst into tears. Christine hugged her while Adeline entertained the other children, showing them the mural's hidden words. Theo and Dad started explaining the new storage systems designed specifically for families starting over. "No," I finally answered Sierra. "This was never about revenge. This was about breaking patterns. Look at them. Really look." Christine, once so focused on appearances, comforting a woman in worn clothes and unwashed hair. Theo, who gambled away thousands, now proudly showing off budget-conscious designs. Adeline, teaching young girls to see their natural beauty. Dad, serving others instead of demanding service. "Your mum would have loved this," Sierra said, snapping another photo. "She did love this," I replied. "She tried to show us all along. We just weren't ready to see it." My phone buzzed. A message from Barrett. "Permits came through for the shelter's kitchen renovation. Ready when you are." I looked at my family, all engaged in their tasks, all finding their own ways to help. No one had asked me to fund the kitchen renovation. No one had demanded I fix everything. "Tell them we'll start planning next week," I typed back. "The whole family wants to help." Because that's what we'd become. Finally, truly, a family. Not bound by obligation or money, but by the simple act of helping others, and in doing so, helping ourselves. "Hey, Zara," Adeline called out. "Stop standing around and come help us organize these art supplies." I smiled and joined them, just one more pair of hands in a room full of people learning to give instead of take. The 6-month mark arrived faster than any of us expected. Barrett called a meeting at his office to discuss the completion of their volunteer requirements, but my family had other plans. "We want to meet at the shelter instead," Christine informed me. "There's something you need to see." I arrived to find not just my immediate family, but a crowd of familiar and new faces. Maria and her children, the teenage artists, veterans from Dad's Centre, people from Theo's support group, all mingling in the shelter's newly renovated community room. "Surprise!" Adeline called out, pulling me inside. "We're celebrating." "Celebrating what?" I asked, taking in the decorations and food spread. 6 months of transformation," Christine said, appearing with a folder. "And we have something to show you." She opened the folder and pulled out a stack of papers. "These are the shelter's statistics since we started volunteering. Successful job placements up 40%, housing placements up 50%. Theo stepped forward with his own documentation. 12 of my group members have been gambling-free for 3 months or more. We've started a financial literacy program. My girls, Adeline beamed, gesturing to the teenagers who are now setting up an art display, are all passing their classes. 3 got college acceptance letters last week. Dad cleared his throat. The Veterans Centre has doubled its volunteer base. We're opening a new wing next month. What are you all saying? I asked, though I already knew. We're saying we're not stopping, Christine declared. Papers or no papers, inheritance or no inheritance, we're committed now. You can't make us quit, Theo added with a grin. We're officially addicted to helping people. Speaking of addiction, a man stepped forward, one of Theo's group members. Your brother saved my life. Literally. I was contemplating suicide when he talked me down, showed me there was hope. Maria hugged Christine. I start my management training next week. My kids are in school, we have our own apartment, and it's all because she believed in me. One of Adeline's teens spoke up. I haven't used a filter on my photos in 2 months. I like my real face now. A veteran patted Dad's shoulder. This guy reminded us we still have value. We're not forgotten soldiers anymore. I felt tears welling up as more people stepped forward, each with a story about how my family had impacted their lives. But here's the real kicker, Christine said, pulling out one final document. We've started a foundation. All of us together. The paperwork just came through. A foundation? I whispered. The Whitney Family Foundation for Community Empowerment, Theo announced proudly. We're pooling our resources, not just money, but skills, connections, time. And guess what? Adeline added. We've already received our first major donation. From Emery's company. Barrett stepped forward, more papers in hand. So, about that inheritance. Keep it, Christine interrupted. All of it. Add it to the foundation's funds. Are you sure? I asked, looking at each of them. That's a lot of money. Money we didn't earn, Dad said firmly. Money we don't need anymore. We've found something better. Besides, Theo laughed, we're all making our own money now. Christine's starting a job placement program. I'm consulting for financial literacy projects. Adeline's got her youth mentoring certification. And I'm teaching veterans how to start small businesses, Dad finished. Turns out retirement was boring anyway. Sierra, who had been quietly filming everything, spoke up. So, Zara, still think your hospital bed scheme was too harsh? I looked around the room, at my family, at the lives they'd touched, at the community they'd built. I thought I was teaching them a lesson about money. They taught me one about purpose instead. You gave us a gift, Christine said, hugging me. A kick in the pants we desperately needed. The best kind of revenge, Theo added, is watching people become better than you ever imagined they could be. Even if we hated you a little bit at first, Adeline admitted. A lot at first, Dad corrected, pulling me into a bear hug. But that's what good parents do, isn't it? Push their children to be better. You did for us what your mother would have done. The celebration continued around us, people sharing stories, making plans, building connections. My family moved through the crowd with confidence and purpose, no longer seeking validation through money or status. So, Barrett said quietly, holding up the inheritance papers, what should I do with these? I watched Christine comforting a new shelter resident, Theo mentoring a young man about budgeting, Adeline leading an impromptu self-esteem workshop, and Dad sharing war stories with his veterans. Shred them, I said. They don't need my money anymore. They've found their own wealth. The autumn breeze carried the sound of laughter from the shelter's courtyard, where Dad and his veterans were setting up tables for the foundation's first official fundraising gala. Christine darted around with her clipboard, directing caterers and volunteers with the same intensity she once reserved for shopping sprees. The mayor's confirmed, she announced, pausing beside me, and 3 city council members. Remember when you used to get this excited about sample sales? I teased. She rolled her eyes. Don't remind me. Maria's handling the guest list, by the way. She's amazing at organisation. Speaking of amazing, Theo called out, jogging over with his phone, the online donations just hit 6 figures. The gaming tournament was a huge success. Inside, Adeline and her girls were putting final touches on an art installation, photographs and stories of lives transformed through the foundation's work. No filters, no pretense, just raw humanity. Look who clean up nice, Sierra said, filming as the teens emerged from the shelter's new career closet in professional attire. They'd be serving as hosts tonight, sharing their stories with potential donors. My daughter got her first job interview tomorrow, Maria told me proudly, adjusting one girl's blazer. Christine's been coaching her. The shelter director pulled me aside, tears in her eyes. When your family first started volunteering, I thought it was just rich people doing community service for show. I've never been happier to be wrong. Dad appeared, looking dapper in his suit. The veterans brought extra chairs, though I think they're really here for the food. Better than military rations, one of them shouted, making everyone laugh. Barrett and Emery arrived early, carrying boxes of promotional materials for the foundation. Wait until you see the video Sierra edited, Barrett said. There won't be a dry eye in the house. As evening fell and guests began arriving, I watched my family work the room. Christine introduced Maria to potential employers, her networking skills now serving a greater purpose. Theo shared success stories from his financial literacy program, while Adeline's teens proudly showed off their art and achievements. Dad stood with his veterans explaining their business mentorship program to impressed investors. These men and women sacrificed everything for our country, he said. The least we can do is help them rebuild their lives. Quite a change from the family that used to beg you for money, Sierra observed, capturing everything on camera. Before I could respond, the mayor stepped up to the microphone. I've seen many community initiatives in my career, but the Whitney Family Foundation is unique. It's not just about throwing money at problems. It's about personal investment, about transformation from within. Christine took the stage next. 6 months ago, my sister Zara taught us a hard lesson about privilege and responsibility. She forced us to confront our own failures and find purpose beyond wealth. Tonight, we're not asking for handouts. We're offering partnership in changing lives. Theo followed with statistics about their impact. Jobs created, homes secured, addictions overcome. Adeline's girls shared their journeys from insecurity to confidence. Dad introduced veterans who'd started successful businesses. None of this would have happened, Christine concluded, if our sister hadn't had the courage to push us off our pedestals. We thought she was punishing us. Instead, she gave us the greatest gift possible, the chance to become better people. The applause was thunderous, donations poured in. But what moved me most was watching my family throughout the evening. Christine mentoring Maria's daughter, Theo counselling a young man about gambling temptation, Adeline encouraging a shy teen to share her artwork, Dad proudly introducing his veterans to business contacts. As the event wound down, we gathered in the playroom we'd renovated together, the place where our transformation had really begun. Remember when we thought this was just about inheritance? Theo laughed. Remember when we hated Zara for manipulating us? Adeline added. Remember when we thought money was the only way to measure success? Christine mused. Dad pulled me into a hug. Remember when I said your mother would be ashamed? I was wrong. She's probably up there right now saying, I told you so. Sierra lowered her camera. So was it worth it? The hospital stay, the tough love, the risk of losing your family? I looked around the room, at Christine and Maria planning their next job fair, at Theo teaching budgeting to shelter residents, at Adeline removing the last traces of her Instagram influencer life, at Dad finally being the leader he was meant to be. I didn't lose my family, I said. I found them. We all did. Because sometimes the greatest act of love isn't giving people what they want, it's giving them what they need to become who they're meant to be. And sometimes, the sweetest revenge is watching that transformation unfold, one changed life at a time.